The Eternal Student here, and today we'll be taking a peek into the warped minds of economists and breaking down how they approach the world around them. In my earlier videos, I mentioned how economics isn't really a science, but what is a science? Well, the key thing that makes the sciences so sciencey is the fact that one is able to systematically prove knowledge through the use of the scientific method. Experiments can be repeated over and over again with controlled conditions in order to prove certain things. And once something is proven, the knowledge is determined to be true no matter what. Unfortunately, we can't really do that in economics. Economics primarily studies human interactions, which are rather complex and influenced by a wide variety of things. Additionally, societal development and changes in real-world conditions mean that we can't look at things that happen in the real world in a vacuum. Not to mention the fact that we can't really run experiments on groups of people because of ethical concerns. This has paved the way for certain uptight scientists to take the high ground and denounce the study of economics as unscientific. For example, the American astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson says, "I am not an economist, let me say that right now, get that out of the way, but I cannot bring myself to call economics a science because science is about hard data."
Man, shut your bitch ass up, nigga.
Because the laws of science differ fundamentally from those of...
Now, those of you watching the video might or might not be wondering, if economics is unscientific, where does economic knowledge even come from? Without experiments, how are all these economic theories developed? Can we even trust economic theories? To answer these questions, we'll need to introduce two types of analysis, positive and normative. Positive analysis is factual. It simply states what is. You can recognize a positive statement because it can either be true or false. There are no personal judgments involved. On the other hand, normative analysis is opinion-based. It states what seems or what should be. Normative statements often can't be proven or disproven. They're a matter of opinion. For example, a positive economic statement would be that South Africa's unemployment rate at the date of when this video was uploaded was at 33%. This is a statement that can be proven by looking at factual statistics. On the other hand, a normative economic statement would be if I said, South Africa is a terrible place to live and do business in overall because of its high unemployment. Even though I've used a factual economic statement to back up my claim, the actual claim I'm making is still a subjective opinion.
South Africa.
Check this out. I put down 20 bucks. You put down 20. That's 40. I'm gonna buy that for 30 bucks. So I make 10 and you make 10.
Now, what if I wanted to claim that higher economic growth will lead to less unemployment? Would this be positive or normative? Although this sounds like a normative statement, you can make the case that based on economic theory, this is a positive one. How is this possible? Well, even though I've mentioned how economics is influenced by the complex and continuously evolving nature of human interactions, it might seem very difficult to make positive statements that explain the relationships between two variables. However, economists often make use of various tools that help them guarantee that positive statements can be made with more accuracy. Perhaps the most important tool of them all is the ability to use assumptions. Assumptions provide a universal, ready-made basis for economists to create theory on top. By simplifying conditions that might exist in the real world, assumptions allow economists to create laws and models. For example, one of the most important assumptions in economics is that people are rational and logical. This assumption allows economists to assume that people, no matter where they are from or what they believe, will act in a certain way according to their role in society. Economists believe that consumers will purchase goods and services in a way that maximizes their happiness, that producers will operate in a way that aims to make them as much profit as possible, and that governments are not filled to the brim with idiots who don't prioritize their country's welfare. Another important tool used by economists is this magical Latin phrase, Ceteris Paribus, which translates to all other factors remain unchanged. This powerful phrase is another assumption which allows economists to simplify the world around them and look at things in isolation. For example, let's say the school canteen doubled the price of its cookies. What would happen to the amount of cookies people would buy as a result? Well, let's try using those magic words. If the price doubled ceteris paribus, It basically means that everything else other than the price that could change and affect the quantity bought will not change. By stating these magic 2 words, we stifle everything else that could have an impact on our measurable results, including the size of the cookies, their quality, the number of students, and the list goes on. So by observing society or by conducting empirical research, economists collect data that allow them to formulate hypotheses about the world. In combination with any assumptions they have made, this enables them to create economic theories that you and I can then learn. And depending on whether or not these theories hold up over time, we can either accept or refute them as valid. So that's how positive analysis helps influence economic theory. What about normative analysis? Well, normative analysis often lends its hand in the case of policymaking. Governments often have to juggle various political or economic aims, as each aim may be at odds with other aims. For example, a government which prioritizes strong economic growth may not necessarily care about income inequality. A different government which prioritizes equity may invest more resources on empowering its poorer, more disenfranchised citizens. Quick reminder on the screen for the differences between equality and equity. Now, normative analysis also helps us develop comparisons between different schools of economic thought, or different approaches to policy. For example, comparing China and the USA, one can clearly see that China is a better place to live in overall, with free healthcare, barely any drugs and crime, a better standard of education overall, and no racism, at the mild cost of some of your personal freedoms. On the other hand, yikes, let's not talk about this one.
Living America like bad dream, very bad government, everyone angry, no share culture, just many white Mexican to black. This terrible fortune, lack car strength, unlike glorious Han Chinese nightmare country.
Something's different. Never mind. Let's move on to the syllabus statement review. So this section is barely tested at all, which raises the question of why it's even included in the syllabus. Once in a blue moon, you might encounter the rare question that asks about Ceteris Paribus, but it's often sufficient to just know what it means, and you'll be fine. And with that, we're done. I'm the Eternal Student, and I'll see you next time.